What do you want, John? You want your flamingo shorts?
I just want people to acknowledge that I'm wearing flamingo socks.
How do you feel about your flamingo socks?
Well, I think you know how I feel about them, otherwise I wouldn't make you take a picture of them.
Piet, how do you feel about the flamingo socks?
I think they're great. Not sure if it suits with the shirt, but let's go with it.
I should have worn my flamingo shirt. I don't know what to do with my arms. It's like, how do arms work anymore?
I feel this is funny.
You just do like this this is like, as like...
Well, you can do a penguin.
Yeah, May Pekkerveen.
Yeah, I'll keep...
Ek is die Pekkerveen.
Okay, and in 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome to Zarnia, a show about geekery and nonsense. I'm probably going to drop the nonsense from like this intro at some point, but for now, let's just keep it in and see how we feel. I'm here with Piet van der Westhuizen of Return Revolution. Piet, how are you doing?
Very well, thanks to yourself, John.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm pretty good.
Great.
Yeah, I'm getting better. Piet, you are a game designer, and we've got two of your games here with you. You've got Homeport and Main Pekkerveen. So Homeport is your first game, right?
That's correct, John.
Yeah, how did you get the idea for it?
So I was working on a ship. The ship was called the Logos Hope, and one day I was sitting on the bridge of the ship overlooking the harbor, and I saw a container ship moving out of port. And in that moment, I got the whole idea for the game, started drawing it out on paper, and I started playing the game against myself in my mind, and I saw, hey, this can work. So I started making the game out of wood on the ship, in the carpenter's workshop, and played a couple of rounds on the ship and saw that it can really work. So when I came back home, I thought of making much of it.
So you had the inspiration basically for the theme and the mechanic at the same time of how the game would work, not just what it would be about.
Yes, so the idea of having the box as a container came later, but definitely shipping theme, ships moving around the board. Originally, I thought of having a round board or a circular board, but later on I thought of actually making it square, just for ease of manufacturing. But the whole concept, mechanics of the game came from the beginning.
And this was the first game you'd ever designed. Had you had an interest in creating games before?
So this was definitely the first idea of a game that I had. I've enjoyed playing games before, but never really had an idea to design one. So definitely the first time. And after coming back, I spoke to one of my kind of board game friends, and then he kind of gave names to the things that I already kind of planned for the game. So the main mechanic is called pick up and delivery, but I didn't know that before, but after he told me, it kind of made sense. So you pick up a container at this port and then you go and drop it off there. Wasn't really in the gaming industry as such, but the idea just gelled from the beginning.
That's a lot of fun, and it's kind of, you've kind of gone from outside to being part of a community, is that right?
Yes, there's a big board game community, especially around the world. A couple of Facebook pages and groups. South Africa is still a bit small, but there's definitely some scope for improvement, and it is looking up, especially after the lockdown. It seems like a lot more people are engaging with board games, asking for new games rather than just the popular ones.
Do you think that there is something particularly attractive about board games right now, where we do feel like we're in a pandemic and it's difficult to meet people, where coming into a space together kind of takes on more significance?
I think definitely so. Especially after coming out of lockdown, you feel that you want to spend time with friends again. After the first couple of meetings, you would kind of have explained or kind of told the story of what you did during lockdown, and then you would want to do something else, maybe play a game together. But I think to spend kind of more intentional time around the table, board games are the way to go.
Okay, so what was your idea behind Main Pekkerveen?
Yeah, so during the lockdown, I thought of designing my second game, and I first thought of a mining theme, so where you have to kind of mine for gold. And then after the one playtest, my dad said, "Hey, I'm the Main Pekkerveen," being an Afrikaans family. So that kind of just sparked the whole theme and name for the game. And for the English folk, you don't have to worry. It's not an Afrikaans game. It's language independent. So you don't have to read any text during the game. So even though the name is Afrikaans, any person can still play.
Yeah, I mean, you just won't enjoy the rhyme nearly as much.
True.
Main Pekkerveen is a very fun It's a very fun title.
Thanks.
Yeah, so this game seems much more family oriented with the very cute penguins. So you said you started this during lockdown, so that would give you only a few months. So what, from first idea to getting it packaged, how long did that take?
So yeah, the whole kind of process of designing a game can really vary in duration. I mean, sometimes a game takes, I don't know, a month to develop, like Mijnpakkerwijn. Other times it can take years, especially if there's a lot of text in the game, a lot of variables. But yeah, the plan is definitely to produce some more games, especially simpler, kind of easy to play games, mostly for the South African market. I think there's a lot of potential in South Africa, but mostly for simpler kind of family style games. And yeah, so working on a couple of ideas, but it's all still kind of concept development phase. One of my dad's friends is an architect, and he also has a couple of game ideas, actually like 5 or 6. So I'm working together with him to develop these games as well.
That's awesome. What comes first, the concept and the theme, or the mechanic?
So it depends on the game. Sometimes you start with a theme and you develop it into a game. Other times you just get the one mechanic that can really like kind of build the game, kind of make or break the game, I guess. So it depends. Very often you walk down the street and then the whole idea just pops into your mind. Other times you sit down and you kind of want to figure it out, how will this work in real life.
So, what advice would you give to someone else who is be in your position? They've got an idea. Where do they go to next?
It's a hard, it's a difficult balance between artwork and mechanics. So very often I would tell people, don't worry about the artwork. Just look at the mechanics and see if you can play the game as many times as possible to get some feedback from friends. But also you don't want to put just a kind of hand-drawn piece of paper in front of them. So get some artwork, but don't spend too much time in the beginning because things are definitely going to change. So, I mean, with Mijnpakkerwijn, kind of my first prototype of the game already had a lot of artwork, but that's not really necessary. So I would say get as many people to play your game, try to make high-quality prototypes so that the game can play easily, but leave the artwork till last.
So what I want to know is where do the ideas for mechanics come from? Do you look around the world and see real-life mechanics and systems, or do you look at other games for inspiration, or do they kind of come from your dreams at night?
So for the first game, definitely it just came from the idea, but there are definitely some core mechanics or basic mechanics out there. And it's not copyrighted, so anybody can use that mechanic. For instance, car drafting is a mechanic, or pickup and delivery, or
trivia questions,
yeah.
Or going around snakes and ladders.
Exactly, dice rolling. There's even a thing called dice drafting. So you roll the dice, and then people have to pick from the different dice. So there's a lot of different mechanics out there that you can use or incorporate in your game. But I think if you can come up with something new or something unique, that's the way to go.
What's your favorite game?
So recently I bought this cool game. It's called Steampunk Rally. It's from an overseas developer and publishing company. But it's basically kind of during the time of the Wright brothers and kind of Thomas Edison and all those guys designing or inventing machines, and then you race with these machines across the Alps actually. So then you get some terrain damage as you kind of move these steampunks over the terrain, yeah.
Oh, that's very
over
cool.
the mountains. Yeah.
That's very, very cool.
Really enjoy that game, and it's for 2 to 8 players, so really versatile for kind of bigger or smaller groups.
I made an interesting discovery. I've got a passion for trivia. Is that there were a lot of electric cars before the petrol combustion engine, before the fuel combustion engine. Most cars were in fact electric. They were little city hopper cars. Something like 60% of the cars sold in America in 1901 were electric.
Wow.
Yeah, and
that is so interesting.
You don't think you kind of think of technology as having gone steam and then fuel and then electricity, but really a lot of those things around that time, the steampunk era, I mean steampunk era, it's a fictional era, but you know what I mean, happened, were much more had a lot more overlap, which is very interesting to me.
Amazing. Maybe we should make a game about that.
Yeah, maybe I'll try it out, yes. So just in a brief summary, what's the idea behind Homeport? How do you play this game?
So Homeport is basically a pick up and delivery mechanic game of moving ships around the world. There are 5 ports, so each player gets a specific port called the Homeport, and then they basically move the containers from their port to another port and then get points for it. You can also go and kind of fish to get some fish in the ocean and bring it back to port, sell it for cash, or go and get some oil from oil rigs in the ocean and bring it back to the port for cash. And for all of those transactions, you get points. And the first person with 7 points, it's kind of the golden tokens in the game, wins.
Cool. So you're kind of you're looking at global fishing and shipping, and you're reimagining it in the game.
Yes.
Oh, very cool.
So definitely a shipping theme board game.
All right. At Main Vein, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Main Vein is a bit more of a fun theme. It's with penguins mining for gold nuggets in an iceberg, floating off the side of Cape Town. But Table Mountain is actually in the game, so see if you can spot it. But it's essentially using fish as a resource and then paying the penguins to go and mine in the mine. And then eventually you have to kind of use your nuggets that you've mined with contracts to get some points.
Okay. So it sounds fun and like a little bit technical.
Yes. A lot of people say that it's surprisingly strategic, but you can also just play it for fun.
Yeah, I mean, I get fooled by these very cute penguins with their big eyes, and no, these penguins are actually fierce capitalists.
Yeah, it's called Fish Hungry.
Brilliant. All right,
Cool.
Piet, thank you so much. Thanks for bringing these games. So, where can people buy them?
So currently nowhere. So the challenge at the moment is to produce them.
Nowhere at all. This is scarcity. So if I'm just going to take one of these now.
Please don't steal it. Yeah. So currently manufacturing is still a bit of an issue. Currently waiting on a quote from a printing company to produce the printed assets, but the plastic parts are still an issue. Currently I'm 3D printing. 3D printing works well, but it's slow. So if I'm looking at kind of more mass manufacturing, it's either going to China, which I don't really want to do. I would like to manufacture locally. Then it's looking at injection molding. Those molds are extremely expensive. So yeah, I mean, if you want to buy a prototype, you're more than welcome to, or kind of hang on a little while for the main production run.
All right. But we'll have a link to your website if people want to find out more, and any communities that you are a part of that people can find you on.
Yeah, sure. I've got a Facebook page, Return Revolution, and also on Instagram. And the website will be up soon. I've got a website for Homeport. It's called homeportgame.co.za, so that's fairly easy to find.
Awesome. Thanks so much. What am I closing off with?
I
don't know.
We can end it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Piet, thank you so much. And thanks for coming to Zarnia.